Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, no matter how many affirmations you whisper or goals you set, you keep finding yourself circling back to the same struggles, the same patterns, the same results? It's not your fault, it's your frequency. You've been taught that outcomes are a result of effort, that success follows hustle, and that fate is some invisible hand scripting your destiny. But what if everything you've been told is only half the truth? What if the universe isn't responding to your actions, your words, or even your dreams, but to the energy you're embodying every single day? See, you're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because your internal signal, the vibration you're broadcasting into the quantum field, is still tuned to the version of you that's rooted in the past. And the universe, precise and neutral as it is, simply mirrors that back. Think about it. You wake up thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same doubts, expecting the same resistance. In the field, it listens. It rearranges particles, events, and outcomes to match that signal exactly. This is not fate, this is frequency. And until you shift the state you're operating from the emotional code embedded in your nervous system, you'll continue collapsing timelines that feel like déjà vu. You'll call it coincidence. You'll call it bad luck. But really, it's just resonance. The world is not happening to you. It's happening through you. The reason you keep getting the same results is because your observer, the part of you selecting which version of reality becomes real, hasn't changed. But the moment you shift that lens, when you begin to observe from a state of sufficiency, trust, and alignment, the entire structure of your experience begins to rearrange. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. This isn't woo, it's wave. Function. And in the next moments, you'll discover how to break the loop not by force, but by frequency. Welcome to the truth no one told you about your power. Welcome to the shift. So here's what they never taught you in school. You are not perceiving reality, you are projecting it. Every thought you dwell on, every emotion you entertain, every assumption you quietly carry, they don't just color your world, they construct it. And while you may think you're just responding to life, you're actually in a feedback loop with the field. The frequency you embody becomes the blueprint the universe mirrors back. That's why when you try to think positive, but underneath, you're still vibrating doubt, your results don't change. You may speak abundance, but if your nervous system is wired to scarcity, the signal the field receives is lack, and the field, flawless in precision, responds with more of the same. Here's the glitch in your manifestation process. You're using the energy of the old version of you to try and build a new timeline. That's like broadcasting a radio signal from 1998 and expecting to tune in to 2025. It's not going to happen, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your frequency is out of sync with the reality you want. And the quantum field doesn't respond to your wants, it responds to your coherence. That's the missing piece. Coherence isn't thinking happy thoughts. It's when your thoughts, emotions, and body are humming in harmony, broadcasting one clear signal that says, "This is who I am now." When you reach that internal clarity, the field doesn't hesitate, it bends. That's not spiritual optimism, it's quantum causality. But here's the paradox. The shift doesn't start when life gets better. It starts when you observe differently. When you stop rehearsing the same emotional scripts and start choosing from the version of you that already exists in the higher frequency. That version of you is not some distant ideal. It's a pattern in the field, waiting for your signal to match. Here's the truth most people never say out loud. The reason you keep getting stuck isn't because you're lazy, it's unworthy, or broken. It's because you're emotionally addicted to a frequency you didn't even choose. Somewhere between your childhood, your traumas, your inherited beliefs, and all the moments you felt powerless, your nervous system learned to survive by clinging to familiar, emotional states: worry, scarcity, doubt, proving, fear, and over time, those states became your home frequency. It's not because they feel good, but because they feel known. So now, every time you try to rise, to change, to manifest something new, there's a subconscious gravitational pull dragging you back into the old loop. That's why you find yourself checking your bank account with anxiety, replaying old conversations that hurt, scanning your future for what might go wrong before it even happens. It's not just a mental habit, it's an energetic program, and your body, it's been trained to crave the chemical rush of stress like an addict. Craves a fix, so you end up rebuilding the same version of life, even while dreaming of a new one. This is the invisible sabotage. You say you want freedom, but vibrate fear. You say you want love, but expect rejection. You say you're ready, but your system is still bracing for impact. That mismatch is not weakness, it's misalignment. And until you shift the baseline frequency you're living from, no visualization or affirmation will override it. But here's the breakthrough. You don't have to fix the whole pattern overnight. You only need to catch the signal, interrupt it, replace it, because the loop isn't your fade. It's a frequency. Frequencies can be tuned. So the question isn't what's wrong with me, but what energy am I still unconsciously loyal to? And the moment you ask that, you've already started the shift. The loop is not permanent. The code can be rewritten. And in the next chapter, you're going to learn exactly how to hack the pattern and rewire the field. Your brain is not just a storage device, it's a prediction machine. Every second, it's scanning your internal and external environment to answer one question: what's about to happen next? And it doesn't answer that question based on truth, it answers based on memory, which means your brain isn't looking for what's possible, it's looking for what's familiar. That's why change feels so hard. Your conscious mind might say, I want abundance. But your subconscious mind is running a program that says abundance feels unsafe because last time we had it, we lost everything. Or love feels dangerous because the last time we opened up, we got hurt. These emotional memories don't live in your thoughts, they live in your body. In the patterns of tension in your jaw, in the shallow breath you don't notice, in the tightness in your chest when opportunity knocks. And your nervous system, designed to protect you, chooses the familiar discomfort over unfamiliar expansion every time. This is how the loop gets reinforced, not just through repetition, but through physiology. Your body becomes the subconscious. But here's where the science gets empowering. Neuroplasticity. Your brain is not fixed. It rewires based on what you repeatedly feel, focus on, and believe. So if you can shift your emotional baseline, not just think new thoughts, but feel from a new frequency, you begin to carve new neural pathways. You start to signal to your nervous system that it's safe to receive, safe to shine, safe to relax into the version of life you've been dreaming about. That's not mindset work, that's quantum recalibration. And you don't need years of therapy to begin. You need awareness, intention, and consistent micro-shifts in focus. Every time you catch yourself expecting the worst, and instead breathe into the energy of trust, that's a neural edit. That's a new signal to the field. And the more you do it, the more real that version of you becomes. Not because the world changed, but because you did. What if I told you that the most powerful shift in your life doesn't come from doing more, but from seeing differently? Metaphorically, literally. Quantum physics has proven through the observer effect that the way you observe changes what becomes real. But this goes deeper than watching. It's about who is watching. Every time you look at your life through the lens of limitation, your perception collapses, a version of reality that matches it. If you look at your goals with doubt, you activate a field that reflects doubt. If you observe your relationships expecting pain, you magnetize conflict. Not because life is cruel, but because your observation is a command to the quantum field. So the key isn't to force a better outcome, it's to change the frequency of the observer. And that means upgrading your identity. Your current identity, the you who's watching, has been shaped by stories, emotions, and patterns that might not even be yours. Old programming from your parents, cultural beliefs, past failures, but none of it is permanent. You can begin observing from the identity of the future youth, the version of you who is already living the reality you're calling in. And when you do, something radical happens. Your nervous system begins to regulate. Your energy softens. Your perception expands. The way you see the world changes, and so does what the world shows you. This isn't positive thinking. This is quantum alignment. Imagine starting your day not from the version of you that's trying, but from the version of you that's already there. How do they walk? What do they no longer worry about? What choices come easily to them? And here's the secret. When you observe life from their eyes, you begin to collapse their timeline. That's the shortcut. You don't have to build a new life, you just have to become the observer who already lives it. Here's the part most people miss. Making a shift is not the hard part, staying in the shift is. You've probably had moments where you felt aligned, clear, even unstoppable. Maybe after a powerful meditation, a breakthrough conversation, or a sudden insight. But then, like gravity, life pulls you back. You open your phone, see a message. That triggers you. You check your bank account. Someone doubts your dream. And just like that, you're back in the old identity. Not because you failed, but because your system is trained to return to the familiar. This is why most people never stabilize the new frequency. They dip into it, then snap back to the old pattern. So how do you stay in alignment long enough for reality to reshape? The answer is frequency anchoring. Your energy, like a radio signal, needs reinforcement to remain coherent. And that means building small, repeatable rituals that recalibrate your state throughout the day, not once a week, not once a month, but daily. Think of your focus like a muscle. The more often you return it to the frequency of your future self, the stronger that version becomes in your field. Start your mornings not by scrolling, but by asking, what reality am I choosing to observe today? Throughout the day, set micro checkpoints, close your eyes for 30 seconds and breathe like the version of you who's already living your vision. Feel their ease, their confidence, their calm. And before sleep, replay the moments where you showed up from that new identity. Like gratitude, anchor it deeper into your system. These tiny acts are not trivial. They're vibrational programming. Every time you observe from alignment, even for a few seconds, you're signaling to the field, this is who I am now. And the field, always listening, always mirroring, begins to rearrange accordingly. It's not effort, it's entrainment. The real test of your shift doesn't happen when things feel easy. It happens in the moments you're triggered. The fear creeps back in, when doubt whispers, when the old identity tightens its grip and says, see, nothing's really changed. These are not failures. These are thresholds. Pivotal micro moments where the old timeline tries to survive, and what you do in those moments determines everything. Most people fall into the trap of believing the emotion is a signal to stop. But what if it's actually a signal to shift? To step even more powerfully into the new frequency, not by suppressing what you feel, but by observing it differently. When fear rises, don't react, witness. Say, there's the old pattern trying to repeat. When anxiety returns, interrupt the signal. Change your breath. Change your posture. Change the script. These tiny acts break the energetic loop. You don't have to overpower fear, you just have to refuse to feed it. Because every time you choose presence over panic, you weaken the old code. And each time you do that, you're training your nervous system that it's safe to exist in a higher frequency. Safe to receive, safe to expand, safe to stay. Remember, your body has memory, but you can rewrite it. You're not just creating a new reality, you're becoming a new baseline. One that no longer spirals at the first sign of discomfort, but instead leans into it with awareness, grace, and sovereignty. This is the moment most people give up, but not you. Not this time. Because now you know. The discomfort isn't a sign of failure. It's the friction of a system recalibrating. You're not regressing, you're refining. And the more you lean in, the faster the shift locks in. This is where the magic becomes visible, not in theory, but in experience. When you've been anchoring your new frequency consistently, something subtle but undeniable starts to happen. Reality responds. People treat you differently. Synchronicities multiply. Opportunities that once felt out of reach seem to arrive, unannounced. But let's be clear, this isn't magic. It's mechanics. Your frequency has become stable enough that the field begins collapsing new timelines around you. You're no longer waiting for change. You're embodying it. The quantum field, precise and impartial, simply reflects that embodiment. Here's what you'll notice. Things begin to flow with less resistance. Conversations align. Clients appear. Solutions arise without force. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped vibrating from the identity of struggle. You stopped expecting things to be hard, so they weren't. You stopped chasing, so things began arriving. This isn't the universe rewarding your effort, it's matching your coherence. In the quantum field, reality doesn't respond to effort, it responds to energetic congruence. And now that your internal state consistently broadcasts a clear, elevated signal, the field recognizes it as real. It reorganizes around it. But here's what matters most. This shift in reality isn't fragile. It's not something you'll lose if you skip one meditation or have a bad day. Because you're not relying on rituals. You've become the signal. You are the frequency. And as long as you stay conscious of the observer you're being, you remain the architect of your timeline. Not someday now. And this is just the beginning. Because the field holds versions of you beyond anything you've imagined. Versions not limited by logic or past conditioning. Versions that are entangled with your future success, love, freedom, and purpose. This is the moment where you stop glimpsing your future self and start becoming them. No more temporary alignments. No more trying to act as if. In this stage, you're not just tapping into the frequency, you're merging with it. The boundaries between who you are and who you've been becoming begin to dissolve. That version of youth, the one who moves with clarity, speaks with power, trusts life, attracts effortlessly, is no longer a vision. They are your baseline, your new normal. And here's what's wild. It doesn't require effort. It requires permission. You must allow yourself to embody that level of peace, abundance, and joy now. Not after you hit a milestone. Not when your bank account agrees. Not once others approve. Now, because the field doesn't wait for your conditions, it waits for your congruence. It's your readiness to let go of the waiting game and simply be the version of you who already lives it. And this is where identity becomes your most powerful technology, your beliefs, your posture, your tone, your rhythm. You'll become carriers of your signal. And when that signal is stable, reality has no choice but to reflect it. This is the physics of self-realization. You're not just observing differently, you're transmitting differently. You're no longer watching your future arrive, magnetizing it by being its vibrational twin. That's coherence. That's embodiment. And once you lock in from this space, there's no going back. Only deeper, higher, clearer. The dream becomes daily, the quantum becomes practical, and you become undeniable. Not because you force it, but because you are it. And now you've arrived at the threshold, the space between becoming and being. You've learned that it was never about effort, but about frequency. Never about chasing the future, but collapsing into it. The version of you who once doubted, once feared, once waited, has now remembered their role not as a reactor, but a creator. So how do you sustain this shift not for a day, but as a lifestyle? The answer is elegant. Through devotion, not discipline. Devotion to the frequency. Devotion to the identity. Devotion to observing life from the eyes of your highest self every single day. This doesn't mean being perfect. It means being present, being attuned, being sovereign in your signal. So create sacred rituals, not because you should, but because your energy craves the coherence. Revisit your future self each morning. Observe through their eyes. Speak from their timeline. Move with their breath. When you drift, return. When old energy arise, smile, shift, recalibrate. The more you live from the frequency, the less the old world pulls you. And soon, this version of you, the one who once felt like a future, is simply you, unshakable, aligned, radiant. This isn't the end. This is the emergence of your new reality, your new signal, your new script. If this message stirred something inside you, if you felt the field shift as you listened, then it wasn't just words, it was a transmission. One, your future self called in. And if you're ready to walk this path with clarity and power, then stay in this field. Subscribe, like, share this video with someone who's ready to remember. Not just for content, but for coherence. This isn't just a channel, it's a vibration. And now that you're tuned in, you're not alone. You're entangled with a field of souls awakening to the same truth. It was never fate. It was always frequency. And frequency is something we choose starting now.